Oregon at Utah. Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite. So not only is Oregon favored, but they're favored by close to a touchdown. The over-under in this game comes in at about, let's see, I want to make sure I have the most updated number here, 48 points. So obviously two great defenses. Everybody expects a close back and forth game. What's interesting about this one, first of all, what I would say, a couple things stand out to me. One, this has just been a very interesting rivalry, if you want to call it that, over the last couple of years. Remember, it was a 2021 season. Oregon last year with Mario Cristobal as the head coach, go into November with a chance to make the college football playoff, go to Utah, get destroyed. Then, oh, by the way, meet a few weeks later in the Pac-12 championship game. Utah destroys Oregon again as Mario Cristobal is deflecting questions about the Miami coaching job. Why do I bring it up? It was because last year, you remember what happened last year? Oregon again entered November with a chance to make the college football playoff. One loss. They lose to Washington late, weird, injury to Bo Nix. Come back the next week and take care of business against Utah. Yet somehow Utah still advances to the conference championship game and wins. So Utah's the two-time reigning champ, but this has been a weird back and forth series where you don't really know what quite to expect. And I think this game speaks a lot to that. Speaking of this game from the Utah perspective, listen, they're back at home, but I think we all kind of know what the questions are about this team. They're obviously great defensively, but is the offense fixed, or was it just a simple case of catching USC at the right time last week? Listen, that game was incredible. A lot of questions for USC coming out, but credit to Utah for getting the win. At the same time, when I look back at that game, a couple things stand out. I'll say this. I don't think it was a particularly great effort from Utah. Utah's a great team, great program. Kyle Whittingham is the man. But remember that game. Gave up a pick six, gave up a late punt return to Zachariah Branch that was almost a touchdown. So it was one of those great wins where you can celebrate and you can enjoy it if you're Kyle Whittingham, but you can also go to your guys and say, we got a lot to clean up. Then I think also the question becomes, is this offense actually fixed? Or again, were they just playing USC? Because this is a team that has played elite defenses all season long, starting with Florida in week 1, UCLA, Oregon State, and they have not had success moving the ball. Even the Florida game, they actually got outgained, even though they won. 7 offensive points against UCLA, 7 offensive points against Oregon State. So they're going to need a better effort offensively, and they better hope that maybe something got figured out at USC and it wasn't a byproduct of just USC being terrible. From the Oregon perspective, listen, I thought, honestly, given the emotion of 2 weeks ago at Washington, thought it was a really nice bounce back win last week against Washington State. Wasn't perfect, some mistakes, but Washington State is a very good offensive team. Defense played pretty well. And the offense, frankly, just felt like it didn't miss a beat. 38 points, 500-plus yards of total offense. Bo Nix was great. Bucky Irving, about 130 yards rushing. So just a really nice bounce-back win against a good Washington State team. Overall with Oregon, we've talked about them quite a bit this year. In my opinion, I think they're one of the more complete teams I've seen. Now, the most complete team I've seen is Michigan. Maybe we know why, but that's another conversation for another day. But at the same time, Oregon still, even after the loss a few weeks ago, even after Washington State was able to move the ball, they still have a top 20 defense, top 5 offense nationally, number 2, believe it or not, right now. Offensive skill players at wide receiver, at running back. Bo Nix is really good. They really don't turn over the ball. So this is a very good, very complete team going to Salt Lake City. Now, in terms of how I expect this game to play out, I'll be honest. This is one of the rare games I don't have a strong opinion on. I will not be betting. One thing about this show, I always try to be transparent with you. I would never tell you to pick a side or take a side that I don't feel comfortable with myself. And this is one of those games. I don't feel great about either side. Starting with Utah, listen, it all comes down to the offense. I kind of laid it out, but it is worth noting. This offense, even after last week against USC, as bad as they were, they still rank 100th in the country in total offense, and they still rank 98th in scoring. That's after they put up 30-plus points against USC, 453 yards of total offense. So they are still struggling to move the ball. They have struggled to move the ball all year, and this Oregon defense is elite. As I said, top 20 nationally. Remember, they had over 100 more yards of total offense than Washington did 2 weeks ago. So it's not as though this defense, even against elite competition, has been bad. Now you're going up against great competition in Utah. And so I think Utah struggles to move the ball. Now, from the Oregon perspective, I mean, I kind of just laid it out, right? I'm worried about Utah's offense. So that must mean I like Oregon, but I really don't. It's not that I don't like Oregon. I can't bet them. First off, the 6.5 just feels so high. And maybe this results in like a 31-3 Oregon win and we all feel dumb. But 6.5 is a lot on the road, especially at a place in Utah. They haven't lost a game there in a very long time. The other thing worth noting on Oregon, I don't think enough people have talked about this. As great as they've been, as great as that offense has looked, they haven't really faced a very good defense all year, right? All the best defenses in the Pac-12. They don't play UCLA. Oregon State, they obviously play to close the season. They haven't played even, how about this? They haven't even played a top half of the Pac-12 in defense. Colorado, they beat. Remember, Colorado literally right now coming into this week has the worst defense in college football. So that's one. They played Stanford. Stanford is ranked 129th nationally in total defense, 11th in the Pac-12, only ahead of Colorado. Washington State, 118th nationally in total defense. Washington is 86th nationally in total defense. So you haven't played anything remotely resembling a top half of the country or top half of the Pac-12 defense. And so I could see the scenario where they struggle to move the ball against Utah. So if I had to make a pick, I would take Oregon to win something like 20-6, 21-7, something like that. I don't think it's pretty. I don't think it's great. But I'm not betting against Kyle Whittingham, not at home, not with that crowd. Going to be a great environment. It's going to be the big Fox game where Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft, and Gus Johnson are there. Stay away to me. Will not be betting it. I do think Oregon wins. I don't love betting it at that number, though.